So today we're going to be talking about the vapor blasting or vapor honing process. We use vapor honing and vapor blasting on a lot of our customer builds. If the customer is picky about how it looks, or everything looks really crusty. And this is a relatively new technique of media cleaning that seems to work like a lot better than everything else, especially in California, where anything that cleans any good is illegal. We're here at Mountune with Ken Anderson, and we're going to tell you everything you ever wanted to know about the vapor honing process.
Well, we might keep some secrets, but...
Okay. So vapor honing can make a crusty looking engine case like this Porsche case, a lot of corrosion, a lot of buildup of burnt oil and that, I guess, that undercoating stuff.
Undercoating, sealants, things like that.
And it can make it look like this. I mean, brand new basically, and it's like a lustrous with a tight finish. It looks like a shiny brand new casting. Now if you've done media blasting and used dry media like glass bead or sand or whatever, it usually comes out like kind of like primer gray and porous.
It has a slight texture to it, where this is more of a satin finish.
Yeah, and if you touch it, like the oils from your hand get in there and it looks like crap. And this actually looks like brand new, and you can see like, you know, like it doesn't leave fingerprints or marks. And you know, this is a great process, and we really like this. And that's all I know, because when we do it, we bring it over to Ken and say, Ken, do that thing to it. And Ken is going to explain how this works and why it's different from regular media blasting.
So as Mike said, there's vapor blasting, or there's many terms for the same process. So vapor blasting, vapor honing, aqua blasting, wet blasting, and basically what it is, it's water with some sort of media that you'd put into it. So it could be glass bead, it could be ceramic pellets, it could be walnut shells, aluminum oxide. It just depends on what you're doing. And primarily for what we're working on here are engine parts, suspension parts. We're not trying to change the surface finish. We're actually just trying to clean it, because as Mike said, in California, the solvents that we can use here, or the cleaning agents, are really not much better than dish soap. I mean, that's really what it is. And so we needed a way to clean engine parts, as we build a lot of engines here, and we wanted the parts to look nice when they're done, because we have customers that demand such a thing. And you have older engines like these Porsche cases that have maybe several 100,000 miles on them, and you want them to look brand new, or as best as possible. And the really neat thing about the aqua blasting is the water floats the media on top, and it doesn't impregnate or it doesn't embed into the surface, and therefore you don't have any change in surface finish or surface sizes or any type of critical change in the surface itself. But it comes out looking nearly brand new, like a satin finish, like on that Porsche case there. Cast iron parts look brand new, as they say, as an as-cast finish. So it works out really well, and there's everybody that has one of these. It's kind of the newest thing in parts cleaning. Probably a few years old. We've had our machine a few years, and you develop a pattern or a way of mixing solutions. So we use a blend of ceramic and glass bead, a fine glass bead, to clean our parts, and we find that gives us the best appearance on especially aluminum cases, aluminum engine blocks, aluminum cylinder heads, and it comes out, you know, ready to assemble and looking perfect. And so it's really the best thing to use this day and age. And you can see on something like this Porsche case, as Mike said, you have a finish that looks probably, I think, better than new. You get a satin type finish to it that doesn't leave marks, it doesn't leave fingerprints, it's easy to clean off, and it works out quite well for us. And so we process engines and engine cases all day long through our machine, and it's really, I think, currently the best way to clean parts and restore parts as well.
I think especially restoration, because if you did conventional dry media, it would actually change the finish, and it wouldn't be like the proper
That's right,
look.
yeah. We also have a dry blast cabinet here that we use a baking soda solution in, and it works well, and it's water soluble, so it's easy to clean, but the finish isn't quite as nice. It gives you more of a chalky look to it, and there's certain things that we still use that on, but for the bulk of our engine builds and cleaning processes, we do use the vapor blast process, and it's really been a time saver for us, because cleaning this off in a wash cabinet or a jet cabinet, it may take all day, and you're still never going to get to that level of cleanliness on it.
So how does it work? Like, does the water or the fluid medium kind of cushion the media, and so it doesn't actually like gouge into it?
That's exactly what it is. So the machine is a big box basically with a hopper on the bottom, and the hopper in the bottom is filled with your choice of media and water, and so you have a very high pressure pump. Ours in particular is a 480 volt setup, so it's got a lot of pressure. It's like a fire hose, and that is with a mixture of air, so it's hooked up to our air compressor, and so you have air, water, and the media coming through the nozzle. And what that does is, as Mike explained, is it floats the media on top of the surface instead of embedding into it, and so that leaves a really nice satin finish. Again, depending on your choice of media. So some people use aluminum oxide for things that require a bit more. It's a bit more aggressive than what we use, and so we try to degrease some of our parts also beforehand, so we're not contaminating our cabinet and our media, and try to get really a long life out of it. But yeah, that's what it does. It floats the media on top of the surface, and kind of a scrubbing action, if you will.
And like, I kind of think not all people that operate this equipment do it at the same level, because we've gotten customers that vapor blasted their part before sending it to us, and I mean, it doesn't even look as good as the stuff you do.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there's companies that just do vapor blasting, but really our primary business is engine building. So, we know the level of cleanliness that it needs to be and what it should look like before you build an engine. And there's also a lot of other caveats when you're doing something like this. Once it comes out of the vapor blast cabinet, there's still a lot of post-processing that needs to go on. You need to remove any residual media that may be stuck in the oil galleys and or bolt holes or any of the passages and things like that. And I see online, I see a lot of people blasting like complete transaxles or transmissions or engines. I mean, I don't think you should do that, because you're going to get residual media inside of your engine or inside the gearbox, and that's something you definitely don't want to do. So I think we have the experience of, we know what the part needs to look like and the condition it needs to be in before it goes into final assembly, and so that's what we present to our customer base as well.
I know a big problem that we have with customers that supply their own parts that they've had vapor honed before. The operator doesn't know what he's doing, and they go to town on like the machine flat surfaces and actually erode things and cause erosion anywhere there's a machine sealing surface, and go to town the sealing areas or even the main cap saddles.
Sure, and that could be because they're not really using the correct media for an engine. They're probably, it's a production shop, they're trying to crank through parts all day long. They want an aggressive media in there that's just going to obliterate machine surfaces, and that's the last thing you want to do. So you do need to be aware of what you're blasting as well, and make sure your machine is set up for that.
So when you tell a customer, oh man, we got to deck your block a lot, and then we need the align board too, because they made, whoever did this made such a mess out of everything. Customer gets all pissed off, but not all operators are created equal, and that's why we use you as opposed to other people. Like, we never have any problems because you kind of understand what needs to be done and what precautions need to be taken.
Yeah, and that's a really good point you made. I mean, I see that all the time. We do get parts brought to us that customers have had done by other shops, and they look at our products online. Oh, my case doesn't look like that. My engine block doesn't look like that. Well, there's a good reason for it. So you do need to be aware and cautious of what media you're using in your vapor blasting process.
And I think sometimes you can use a really aggressive media like aluminum oxide, and the finish you get doesn't look much better than bead blasting dry.
No, it's going to look about the same. I mean, we have done vapor blasting with a very aggressive media before, just for testing and things like that. And the surface, you're right, you might as well have just put it in a dry cabinet, because that's what it looks like. It's a very pockmark and rough finish. But for engines and transmissions, and that's not something you'd want to do.
So the exact formula is secret sauce, right, Ken?
Well, it is a bit. I mean, we've had our machine, like I said, a few years, and it took some trial and error, because nobody wants to tell you what they're using. And so I will tell you, it's a mixture of ceramic and glass bead, a very fine glass bead. And that gives you the satin type appearance that you see on aluminum. And it also works as well on cast iron parts, which we'll see later on. But it does give you a very nice, usable finish on your product that you can rely on, that it hasn't changed any of the critical dimensions.
How about something delicate like a sheet metal valve cover or a windage tray or something? Do you have to be extra careful with that kind of stuff so you don't get it all wavy?
You wind up, you develop a process, so you're going to hold it a little bit further away from the actual nozzle, but I don't think we've ever had, it would really depend on the thickness of the metal. I don't think we've had any issues with distortion on valve covers or anything like that. One thing you want to be careful of is any parts that are really old and have a lot of oxidation, especially on aluminum, like old, say, Mikuni or Weber carburetors, because they're quite fragile. And so, you want to analyze the part beforehand and look at, the passages and the barrels and everything else, and make sure that it's not too far gone, because you just wind up making it worse, and you don't want to do that. There is a lot of water pressure that comes out. It's, like I said, a fire hose, so you really have to hold on to the part, otherwise it'll blow it out of your hand, and then it might go careening around the blasting cabinet and cause further damage. But in general, I mean, most of the products we blast are heavier gauge aluminum or cast iron or steel. So you can do crankshafts, you can do connecting rods, camshafts, and that's the really good thing about it. If you know what you're doing, you can do these
more delicate machine surfaces.
You can do the castings and the cranks and things like that, and you don't have to worry about destroying the journals or changing the shape of the journal, and that would cause you to have the crank machined or polished or something like that.
How about something that gets that really fuzzy corrosion like magnesium? How good does the process work on that?
Well, again, we do process a lot of magnesium Porsche cases, and while this is an aluminum one, it does have a lot of oxidation on it. You can see it, and that will mostly go away. In the magnesium side of things, it's sometimes when you process it, you'll see it does erode a little way, and that's really not the blasting process removing the metal. It's just removing the oxidized metal, and you were just fooling yourself anyways, because it wasn't a good part. So not much you can do about it, and we do see that, like I said, on the Porsche cases a lot on the bottom side of it. And sometimes that's just the net result of what you're doing.
Yeah, magnesium's tricky like that.
It is, yeah, and there's also, you get a different finish too when you're dealing with sand cast aluminum versus die cast aluminum. It really looks a lot different. So sometimes, like die cast parts, they'll come out with they actually look like I mean, they're very shiny, like that case. That would be a die cast case, and then the sand cast is going to have a little bit of a more duller finish, but it's still very bright and shiny.
Yeah, it's super nice. Even sand cast, I've seen some of this stuff. So I guess we're going to demo some of this stuff.
Sure.
Like we have this crusty case here. Now this thing's pretty darn crusty. A lot of white corrosion on it. There's old undercoat on it from when the car was first made, probably, that's baked on there for years.
Sure.
There's like burnt oil. It's a pretty good example. And then we have the knuckles from Jeff's rock crawler Jeep project that probably have 30 years of corrosion and stuff. And I guess let's blast these and see what happens.
Sounds good. Let's do it. See what it does to this oxidized area. Sometimes you'll have to hold it in position for a while.
So is that how far usually you keep the nozzle from the work?
On something like this that's pretty dirty, I'd like to keep it within about 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches, something like that.
Oh, that close.
Yeah. If it's a more delicate part, like a carburetor, you might hold it 4 or 5 inches away, even further.
Yeah, it's making pretty quick work of it.
Yeah, you'd spend a lot more time in a good old-fashioned solvent tank cleaning it. You'd never get it this clean anyways.
So is there anything that this process doesn't take off very well?
Yeah, it doesn't really do well with paint. If the paint is dry and flaky, it'll take it off, but if the paint is good, you're just wasting your time. Also, silicone sealants, it does not work well at all there. It just winds up, it just bounces off of the silicone. As you can see, this is starting to look pretty good. It's not quite done yet, but it's, you see a lot of where you have this oxidation now. So we can work on this area. There's still some here, but this is actually corrosion, so it's pitted. And you may never get that completely gone just because it's discoloration because of the irregular surface area. But we can work on that a little bit more. So it will be clean, but it may not look perfect just because of the oxidation.
Yeah, well, this thing was a mess before.
Yeah. You can see it already looks a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
We can take it out and compare. So you can rinse it off in here too with this. So I usually give it a little bit of a rinse off. But that way you can see too, there's still some areas we need to hit. But overall, I mean, it looks a heck of a lot better than the original side, the other side. But yeah, you can see like here the oxidation. It's not going to change any of that where there's
metal
porosity
missing.
Yeah, where the metal is eroded away, and that's kind of proof that it doesn't change the surface as well. And we'll before this goes into a build, we'll we'll machine that off and clean it up. But the top of the case looks super nice, where it was really. I mean, we'll go over that again and try to get some of that residual oil that's down in the pores there and clean that out. But it'll look really ready to go when the final clean is done.
The stuff is a closed circuit.
Yeah, it's closed circuit. It's recycled media. It goes through there's a hopper in the back with multi-stage filters, and then it pumps back into the main hopper.
So the media wears out, right?
The media does wear out, yeah. We wind up changing it about once a month. I mean, any media is going to wear just because, it's impacting something. And so if you have like a glass bead, and they're not microscopic, but very small, and eventually they wind up not being round anymore, not like a bead. They break in half. So the ceramic, that's why we use a blend of ceramic, because it's a bit stronger, and you don't have the degradation like you do with glass bead. So should we try one of these knuckles?
Yeah.
All right. We'll try one of these and see how they look.
You can I get a crack at it?
Go for it.
It's just parts, so if I mess it up, that's fine.
Let's do it.
Right, Jeff? So it's just like sandblasting, right? Like and then get the nozzle. And so you just step on the pedal?
It's ready to go. Step on the pedal. You got to hold the gun, because if you're not holding the gun, when you step on it, it'll rip out through and bang around inside the cabinet.
Okay. Oh, that's not so bad. Wow, look at that.
Is that good?
Oh, yeah.
It's brand new.
It's not like super aggressive, so.
No, and that's good. Then you can take your time. But look at it. Look how much nicer it looks.
Yeah. But a lot of this is set up and having the right media and stuff, right, Trey?
Yeah, you really need to know what type of product you're blasting and what type of media works best in the situation. So wash some of the residual media off of it.
Wow, Ken, these things look pretty good.
Yeah, they come out really nice. The cast iron parts always amaze me. They look like there's something right out of a forge or a foundry, and so it's and like I said before, we have a rust inhibitor in the water, so
it's not going to flash rust.
No, it's not going to flash rust. I mean, it would have flash rust already, and once you wipe it down with a pre-treatment or something for painting, I mean, they're good to go.
Man, these things look brand new.
They look brand new, yeah. And same with the Porsche case. I mean, we didn't finish this one, but you can see in certain areas where it looks virtually brand new. It's going to need a little bit more work in the areas where it was really corroded, but I think it came out pretty good just for a quick demonstration. But yeah, the cast iron parts are always a pleasure to do.
Considering how crusty this was.
Well, I mean, it was virtually like this one back here, and so
I think it was a little worse than that, actually.
It probably was. And so it came out really nice. And so that's the benefit of using the vapor blasting process. It's you'd spend a lot of time in a solvent tank with a toothbrush or a stiff brush trying to get that clean.
So what I noticed too is that technique makes a big difference, because I think you did yours like twice as fast as I did mine.
Yeah.
And then yours looks slightly better too.
It does have a slightly different finish. I mean, the technique is a big part of it. You learn when you're doing this how to move the gun, how far away to hold the gun, and that's what you have to be efficient. You don't want to spend all day cleaning apart. But yeah, I mean, that's for sure. It takes time, and we've done thousands of parts, so you just build up a knowledge base on how to do it.
Well, at least mine looks pretty good, and I didn't mess it up.
No, it looks great.
But
it looks real good.
I don't think you'd be hiring me because I take too long.
No, we're not hiring you.
No. Oh well, bummer. So anyway, that's the Vapor Hone, and what else do you want to call it?
Vapor Blast, Wet Blast, Aqua Blast. It's got many different names, but all the same thing. Water, media, and air mixed together, and the result is this.
This is a superior way of cleaning parts, and operator skill and the setup of the machine makes a big difference. So, in my opinion, at least in our area, Mountune does the best job by far, and we use them pretty much exclusively for our builds. So, thank you, Ken, for helping us out.
My pleasure.
Thank you for letting me mess around with your machine.
Anytime.
And
anytime.
If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to our channel. If you want to read about this stuff, go to MotoIQ.com. Billy Johnson did some really good articles about this process, and we'll see you next time.